Hi everybody, it's Stephen here for Bland Designs and for the Idiot Quilter, my new series. And I'm sitting in my sewing room. Don't mind the stuff in behind me or off to the side, that's my little pin cushion. But I thought I would talk to you today just about a couple of things that I have and that I've discovered and what I've been working on. And there's a company, it's out in Edmonton, Alberta, a Canadian company called Sparrow Quilt Company. Now I watch their videos all the time and they've got some fantastic products that you can get only from them as far as I know. Prices of this company are a bit on the expensive side, but then materials for quilting anyways tend to be a little bit on the expensive side, so that's no surprise. However, barring that, I think their products are great. Well, they've just come out with a new product, and this product is basically to help you do what would look like free motion quilting on your quilts, but you follow a pattern. Now, this is an idea I was thinking about just the other day, believe it or not, and I was thinking, well, what would happen if you were to draw a pattern on a piece of deli paper and lay that on top of a square in your quilt and sew through it the same way as you do paper piecing foundation, which is what I did with the string quilt that I'm working on. And I'm thinking, well, that might work. Well, but lo and behold, wouldn't you know, Sparrow Quilt just came out with the same idea. The only difference is they're printing them on really long pieces of paper. I think they're about 48 inches long, and I'm not really sure how wide they are. It might be 18 inches or something like that. Don't quote me on that. I'm not absolutely sure. But essentially, you lay them down across your quilt top. They're designed so if you don't have enough of the paper, like if your quilt's bigger than what they come in the length, you can match them up very easily. There's guide marks on it. And they were using like a repositionable spray to lay it down on top of the quilt, and then away you go. You use your free motion quilting foot and you just follow the design, and lo and behold, you've basically looked like you've done free motion quilting. And in essence, you have, only you're following an outline. So I got thinking, well, that would be really great to have, except two things that held me back from ordering it immediately. One, the price. I guess it's not bad, but they seem to range in price. Like if you buy a single pattern, I think you get 4 sheets that are 48 inches long by, 16, 18 inches wide, that kind of thing. We're around $18, $19, I think. It may have depended on the design too, Canadian. Plus you got to pay for shipping and everything like that, since it's in Edmonton, Alberta, and I live outside of Toronto, Ontario. So anyways, I'm thinking, well, what makes that so special? Why couldn't I draw my own design or print a design onto a piece of deli paper and do the same thing? So I thought I'd experiment. And so this is what I did. I took a design. Now, I will admit that I kind of took this design from a website. I just copied the picture. And I put it into, it was a little different size than this. I made it into an 8x8 size because I can't print well, I could print no, I can't print on my printer a 10x10 square because my printer, of course, will only handle 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. So I reduced it to 8x8 in Photoshop, printed it out, and first I printed it out on a piece of deli paper, but the deli paper didn't really go through my printer very well. It kind of tore up, although there was a way around that because I have printed on deli paper before. But since I was just doing this quick to check it out to see how this would work, I got out a piece of tracing paper, which is essentially like deli paper, except it doesn't have one side with, a waxy, shiny surface, which I don't think for this process that really matters. Printed out, as you see here. Then I made a little quilt square, just a practice one to try. And here's the first thing that I'm not really fond of when it comes to what Sparrow Quilt is offering. Sparrow Quilt says to use a repositionable spray. I get that, and that's a great way to hold it down, but then you're going to have to wash your quilt afterwards to get out the spray. To date, I have not washed one of my quilts. I'm a little afraid to, for one thing. I should bite the bullet and just go ahead and wash one and see what happens. But I haven't done that yet. So I wasn't really wanting to use a repositionable spray. But I thought, well, this is such a small square, I'll just pin it. And I did. I just pinned it down. So I went ahead, followed the lines using my quilting foot, and away I went. Now, yeah, that does work. It makes it pretty easy to follow, although I still need practice in getting around these curves. I wasn't getting them perfect, but I guess that's not really a major problem. It comes with practice. And yeah, that works. So here, I'll show you. I tried it 2 times. This one came out, this is my second effort, this is my first, and you see it's a little jaggy. This one I got a little bit more in the swing of it. So yeah, it will work okay. But here's the problem I really have with it, and this is why, well, 2 things, why I'm not going to order any of this from Sparrow Quilt. Now, let me say on the onset, I am not cutting up Sparrow Quilt Company. I think this is a great idea, and for some people, this would be great for them to use. What I didn't like is trying to get the paper off. Now, she mentioned that, Birdie at Sparrow Quilt, that she should have made her stitches a little smaller because that would perforate the paper better and you could get it pulled off. The only problem you have with that is, from what I understand, and I could be wrong about this, after all, I am an idiot quilter, is that if you make the stitches too small, it makes your quilt stiffer. So it all depends on what you're doing. If it's going to be a wall hanging, I don't think that's a big problem. If you're actually going to use it on a bed or something, then I think you want it to be a little bit more fluffy, so you want a wider stitch, as far as I know. Again, could be wrong. Anyways, I did shorten the stitch a little bit, but when it came to pulling off the paper, that was a bitch. The paper comes off, but it doesn't come off in one piece, of course. It's all these little pieces, and then you get pieces caught underneath your stitches, and you have to carefully, with a pair of tweezers, or if you've got long fingernails, pick those out. I could see on a full-size quilt that this is going to take you a long time to get that paper off. Now, here's the trade-off. If you use the paper and you can put up with the time it's going to take you to peel the paper off, then your end result will be probably very nice, especially if you're not any good or don't feel confident enough to do. I'm getting a glare here off the light. I'm trying to avoid that. If you're trying to, do some free motion quilting, and you're not confident yet in it, this would be a help. However, for me, I think I would rather do some more practice on free motion quilting and then forget using the paper, just go ahead and do the free motion quilting. I think in the long run it would be faster. Well, one, you don't have to peel off the paper later, but also you have the setup. You have to put the paper down, you have to get your pins out or repositionable spray, you got to line them all up, the whole bit. And in my way of thinking, just learn to be confident in free motion quilting. Okay? But again, as I said, maybe for some people this would be better. So I'm not slamming this product. I think it's a great idea. You just have to be patient with it. So that was one thing. Another thing that I found, my husband does stained glass, as you may or may not know. And I said to him, it might be kind of neat if we could find a common pattern that he could put into stained glass and I could put into a quilt. And then I got thinking, well, and again, I'm an idiot in all of this. Is there such a thing as stained glass quilts, the style of stained glass? And I had some ideas in my head how this would work, but what did? I went to the ever faithful YouTube, stuck in stained glass quilts, and saw tons of stuff and different ways people make them look, how they make them look like stained glass with leading and the whole bit. And then I discovered one lady who has a book about this. Her name is Allie Allers, I think, and she's done a book called Stained Glass Quilts Reimagined. So I ordered it off of Amazon, and it tells you the things you can do, how to do it, and how to get that effect. And of course, the one on the cover is gorgeous. I don't think I'm quite up to that yet. I would really botch it, but look, some of these are very intricate, and she has a pattern, a pull-out pattern for the peacock, I believe, in the back as well. So in a sense, it's sort of, I think it's like applique in a way, especially when you get into things like these flowers and the peacock and that kind of thing. But I haven't actually read this book yet. It's one on my list of things to go through and do, but I thought it would be good to get it while I'm thinking about this idea. So down the road, I will do a quilt maybe in this style. We'll see how that works. I'm still experimenting with all these things. So that was a new find. And then what am I working on right now? Well, you've seen my quilt that I'm working on. That's the one, not the one behind me. That's done. That was the Epic Fail quilt, by the way. You might want to check the video where I talked about that. That's in my vlogs. It's a few weeks back, I think. Anyways, you know what this is. Binding. Today I'm working on binding my string quilt. That's the one that I use the paper foundation for and the whole bit. And so this is my last thing to do. Let's get my binding on. I started sewing this together yesterday, so today I'm going to go ahead and start sewing my binding onto my quilt. I think I've got it down now how to do the binding. We'll see. I've done some idiot moves on that as well. But anyways, of course I didn't have enough of this material. This is my backing material on that quilt. And so I had to go over to the Ultimate Sewing Store and pick up another ½ meter so I had enough to make my binding. So that's the project today. So I think that's all I've got to tell you today from the Idiot Quilter. And I'll show you the finished string quilt once I get the binding on it. And I'll share some other wonderful things in my adventures in quilting. See you later. Bye-bye.